It's Sunday, and today's little project is this guy right here. Yeah, that is the rear axle assembly off of my John Deere 317. You can see I've got it all stripped down here. I just use this to putter around the house along with my other diesel tractor. The problem was it was leaking a lot of oil out of the pump. It was slinging it around. So I've got the pump and motor assembly disassembled over here. I've got it laying on the bench. The key to this stuff is to keep it as clean as possible. I don't have a perfectly clean area, but I'm trying to make sure as I go that nothing gets dirty. I cleaned it very well before I ever started this project. And basically what we're doing is we're changing some seals here. We've got these radial oil seals, and I've already got one installed right here. This is where the swash plate and the control goes. So as you, this actually goes in there, and your control lever hooks up to that. When it goes forward, it goes one way, and reverse the other way when you pull the control rod on the machine itself. You can see here's the control rod right here. This guy, and it moves that lever forward and backwards. You can see that moves. Doesn't move a lot, but it moves. So it was slinging oil. It was coming off the top of the pump, and I believe it was coming mostly from this input shaft here. But we're going to go ahead and replace all the seals that I can get to. I checked these motor blocks, and everything is nice and super tight in there. There is no slop whatsoever that I could tell. There's the oil pump assembly for it that's apart. There's an O-ring in that. You can see that guy, which came in my kit. My buddy Bronco Carl helped me find these seals. So I'm going to go ahead and make this video for you guys. Now, there's a couple ways you could do this. Make sure that the bore that seal goes in is nice and clean. But basically, you're going to take, this is a bearing driver, and it's got all these different attachments on it. I use this to drive seals, or you can use a socket of the same outside diameter as these seals and set it on top and carefully tap them in where they're supposed to go. Just make sure that that's very clean inside there when you tap it in. And once you're flush with the outside, on this setup, it appears that that seal is where it belongs. So we are going to go ahead and I've got the old seal sitting here too. I've just got to figure out where my other seal is. I think it's this guy right here. And I've already got this all cleaned up and ready to drive these seals in. Now, the only way I could find to get the swash plate out here, this is the swash plate. Okay, I need to wipe off that that washer in there a little bit, but it can go either way. But if you put it in 180 degrees the wrong way, there's actually on the bottom here there's a stop. One side lets it go farther than the other, so go look at which way the lever travels on your machine and which way it'll tilt this plate back and forth, and that will tell you which direction that needs to be installed, because the area with farther travel is forward. Otherwise you'll have a very slow forward and a very fast reverse, which is exactly probably the opposite of what most people want. So I'm going to go ahead and drive this seal in. I've wiped this out a couple of times, but I'll wipe it out one more time. I don't recommend on hydraulic stuff to use any sort of sealant. You want to get these seals started in there squarely as best you can. The socket method works pretty good. It's a little harder to hold the socket square on there, so I choose this. That bolt will actually fit down through the center of that. And we're just going to take a hammer progress. It actually looks like that went in perfect. We'll just tap it a couple more times. And it sounds like it's bottomed out. And it looks like it's bottomed out. So those are ready to go. Now, with this swash plate assembly, in order to get it out, let's see if I get that to set, in through each, let's see if I can get behind the camera here. There's a hole here and a hole here that has a roll pin in it. And that roll pin goes through that hole on the shaft. This is the control shaft. And then there's a shaft on the other side that doesn't have that control on it. This is reversible for different machines. Depending on your application, you can move the control to one side or the other. Now, I'm going to wipe that bearing plate off. And go ahead and set it back in there. Now remember, I said that only goes in one way if you want your forward speed to go fast and your reverse speed to be the slower one, because of that stop. Now we'll take a look at this. These are the controls on the machine. Now, as you move this forward, right there, it actually pulls that rod closer to the control panel on the machine. So forward is pulling. Now, the way to figure this out, we know that this control goes in this side. So if it's going to pull it, and this is actually the top of the unit, so this sits upright like this, so that means this control lever will be getting pulled this way, okay? And when it goes in reverse, it will spin that way. So we want, on this side, we want the fatter stop, which is what we have. So that will be mounted in there correctly. Now, in order to get those roll pins out of these holes, it's, from what I could tell, this is the first one I've ever had apart, so somebody who's had these apart can certainly correct me and tell me that I did this the wrong way, but this is what worked for me. I basically took a drill bit of the same size, and here's the old spring pin, roll pin, whatever you want to call it. This is more like a spring pin. I drilled it out because trying to tap them out, there's not enough room in the bottom of this case to let it out, no matter how far you rock that shaft back and forth, as far as I could tell. And then when I was done, first of all, I took the motor block assembly out, which is back here. That guy, I took that out and set it to the side, and I stuffed a bunch of towels down in here, and basically I drilled into those holes to drill that roll pin out, and kept using a magnet to pull the filings out of there. And when I was done, I blew everything out with air. I checked the bearing underneath and made sure there was no filings in that. That's kind of rough way to go about it, but I couldn't figure out any other way to do it. So again, anybody can feel free to correct me if I did that the wrong way. But I'm going to go ahead and get these reassembled back in. I'm just going to put a little check to make sure there's no scoring on that shaft and make sure it's clean, because that over time will eat up that seal. Now I'm going to put just a dab of oil on it. This is ATF. These transmissions can use the John Deere High Guard transmission oil or Type F automatic transmission fluid. I use the Type F in them. Okay, that slipped right in there. I'm going to pick it up and get it started on the... There we go. And then we'll go ahead and put the other side in. Make sure it's all clean. I need to go get some spring pins for this, so I probably will not be finishing this job. This pin will go inside and get lined up. Make sure that that's in, and then it gets this little washer. And there is a snap ring that goes on this outside. I'm trying to figure out where. I had a flat screwdriver here, but I guess I'll... Okay, that snap ring is in. Now the next step would be to put those roll pins in there, which I do not have. I'll have to go get them. But that should do the trick right there for that area. I'm not going to assemble that any further for now. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set this aside in the back here, and I'm going to continually try and keep my hands as clean as I can. Now we have the oil pump right here. Now there's an O-ring on the inside. You've got this rotor here and a pin. Keep that all together, okay? Now truthfully, this appears to be very clean inside. I see no scoring on it, so it should pump oil just fine. We're going to take this seal out right here. I'm going to set this on this nice clean rag, and I don't have a seal puller, so I'm going to grab a flat screwdriver and we're going to pop that seal out. Now I'm going to double check one thing. I need to know that that seal right there, that I have the right one in this kit, which should be one of these, and that appears to be proper. Also, you can check, that is the input side of the motor. Make sure that that's close to the right size, that it'll have a nice snug fit. So we're going to actually set this oil pump back out of the way here. We're going to bring this back to the front of the bench. We're going to double check that. Oop, don't mean to shake you guys around there. And that should be okay. I'm going to put a little smear of oil or grease on that when I get ready to slide that pump back on, but that'll be one of the last things that gets done. I will clean that up after I get this all back together so that it's ready to go and not be dropping any garbage inside this case. So that appears to be proper, and there is also a seal. I don't want to flip this too far, but I'll flip it up enough so you guys can see. There's also a seal that goes in that side back there. So we're going to set that back off to the side here, and we'll go ahead and continue working on that oil pump housing. We'll get that seal popped out of there. Sometimes these come out easy, sometimes they do not. This is the one that I believe was the culprit. Sometimes you can get inside. There's a pocket bearing in here. I don't want to screw it up. Sometimes you can tap them out, so I think what I'm going to do order not to screw anything up. I'm going to put a towel over part of this, put it in the vise. I'll get you guys set up here in a second. So we're something like this. I've got a little punch here, and I believe I can get enough angle on that to tap that seal out of there without whacking that bearing. I really don't want to hurt that bearing. I don't have a little puller to pull the seals out with. And of course, I shot it right through the rubber. More than once. That one may be glued in there. Somebody may have put some goop on it when that was installed. Wish I had a tiny pry bar to get in there, but this pry bar might, that might be okay. There it went. So I destroyed it taking it out, but it's out. So we'll go ahead and get that cleaned up right there. Yeah, it looks like there was some sort of sealant on that. So basically, I'm going to keep it tipped away like this so the crap doesn't fall into that bearing. We're going to get that cleaned out. Now would be a good time to stick your finger in that bearing and see how it feels. That bearing feels nice. I suppose you could also slip it back over the shaft and see how that is, but that bearing feels all good to me. So I'll go ahead and get that cleaned up and install that seal, and I'll bring you guys back. Grab some parts, those spring pins to hold that swash plate on. We're going to go to the old Tractor Supply and see if I can find some here today. And yeah, we're in the Duramax. I figured I'd get it out and stretch its legs today. It's sitting outside, and I left it running while I was working on the video, so I figured, what the hell, it's already warm. Let's run it. So we got the Western plow on here. I got the wings back on it, and she's running good. She needs a set of boots on her, but other than that, another thing this truck needs, it's been doing it for, gosh, a couple years now, and I just finally found where you can get the parts for it. The auto parts are starting to stock them. The fuel filter base on these things, the primer starts to suck air over time, and the fuel system will drain down, and you'll have to get out and prime the damn thing if you've been running it, and then it gets fairly cold out. It takes a pretty good cold snap. I mean, it's got to be, I guess if it's a big temperature difference, if you've been running it in 90-degree weather and it's 50 in the morning or something like that, it'll do it, or if it gets real bitter cold. But this truck's been sitting in the shop, so it really doesn't notice it. But it's just a couple of O-rings and stuff like that, so I need to rip that apart here eventually. Because it'll give you a no start, and you'll be like, hey, what the hell? But it's just because it's not getting any fuel. And the reason I knew about that was I went to leave one morning 4 or 5 years ago, and it did it to me. And I just changed the fuel filter, so I thought maybe it lost its prime, and I pushed the primer button, 15 or 20 times until it got rock hard, and the truck lit right off and ran fine. So I think there's a lot of chatter about it on the forums too, so I need to get that done. But we got the plow on, and we're cruising her down the road, and we're not going very fast, about 40, 45 here. But she's all cleaned up inside. Gave her a nice bath inside, cleaned the windows and all that after oil spraying it, and wiped her down, so she's looking good. So I'll bring you back after I get my roll pins, hopefully, and we'll go from there. See you. Alright guys, I've got, I'll show you here, I've got my roll pins back in the swash plate there, and you can see when I rotate this that the upward travel is farther than the forward or the reverse travel. It's only a short amount there. So we've got that back in. I've got a gasket setting on there. Just wanted to check and make sure everything was right, and I really didn't have any doubts, but I always want to check things before I go too far. I'm going to get the gasket off of the other half of that block assembly and make sure there's no pieces, parts left on it. So I've got a razor blade here. It's really not stuck. I just want to use that so I can get it off and not really have to struggle with it. So time to clean house here a little bit. Bring this assembly back over where I can see it. And these bearings in here all feel real nice. So I've got it, it's mostly off of there. I just want to make sure it comes off in one piece so I don't feel like scraping on it. It's very seems very brittle at the bottom here, so this may have been weeping just a little bit. The last thing I want to do is scratch this interior surface because those motor blocks ride on that. So we've got that off in one piece. I can see it looks a little rusty, so I'm going to go ahead and show you something here. These surfaces here you want to make sure you don't scratch, but I'm going to clean this up real good and I'll bring you back when it's time to put that together. Got this mating surface cleaned up. I forgot these plates that go over the motor blocks or the pump blocks, whatever you want to call them, will only go on one way. You want to make sure you keep them samey same. This one with this area and this one with this area, and I'll pick it up. You can see there's a notch in it right there, and there's a locating dowel, and you can also see a dark line in there which will actually mate up with that area if you check it out. So it's important to get those where they came from. If you mix them up, which I will do here purposely, they line up a little bit different. If you look in here, this is relieved. It's much larger than that relief or that one. So you want to make sure they're on the proper ones, which we've done. So we'll rotate those back to the direction in which they're supposed to be. And then we'll take this whole assembly, and it's not easy, it's kind of a balancing act. You almost have to lean this thing on its side and get this up there, otherwise these will fall off. I suppose you could put these on the blocks or take these out and actually set them on top of here and try and get those to line up through there. Any which way you do it, it's a fumble. So I'm going to go ahead and get that put back together in order to save time. There's no, as far as I can tell, there's no right or wrong way as far as your method. There might be one way that's easier than another, but that's the way I'm going to do it. So I will bring you this. I got the thing off the bench. I just started putting the bolts back into the unit here and made sure everything was good, getting it sandwiched back together. I still have to put some bracketry back on it, but I've got it supported for now and got some bolts in it. And I'm going to leave it there for today because this video is getting really long, and I got some stuff I got to do around the house. I just noticed something though. I guarantee one of my oil leaks was coming from that hydraulic fitting right there. They seal right on that lip, and that one's dinged. So I am going to I'm going to have to root through some hydraulic fittings and see if I have one of those. I need to change that. That's an auxiliary fitting for the lift on the deck. But I have put a punch through the hole in this shaft and spun it. Everything spins just fine. So I'm 90% sure I got everything back together the way it's supposed to be. And I got to put a roll pin back in that. I punched it out, and I don't know why I bothered, because that whole shaft comes out. But that's that for now. So I'm going to get this one cheeched up for you, and I still got to get a hydraulic filter for this and do a couple other little things to it before I get it all back together. But I'm going to leave it like this for now, and hope you guys enjoyed that video. It was kind of long and boring, but that's what I got for now. So rate, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.